Hello, and welcome to Intermediate English with Gregg. That's me. So, let's get started. Well, let's warm up with the weather.
Gregg, how's the weather today?
It's too hot to sleep. It's too hot to sleep. Let's check the board. Of course, our usual question, how's the weather today? And for today's answer, it was this. It's too hot to sleep. Now this is maybe very easy to understand. You understand hot and you understand sleep. Okay? By using too hot to sleep, okay, you can understand it's so hot that I can't sleep. Okay? So it's too hot to sleep. Now, of course, you could change the word hot. Okay? You might want to say, for example, it's too cold. Maybe, it's too cold. It's too cold to move. Okay? Maybe it's a very cold winter morning. Okay? It's very difficult to get out of bed. In that case, it's too cold to move. Okay? So, this is today's phrase. So I'll ask the question, and please use today's expression. So, how's the weather today? Great. Now, for today's lesson. Well, for today's lesson, we're going to talk about changes. Okay? Maybe changes to yourself, changes to the city, changes to the seasons or the weather. Okay? We're going to talk about changes. Now, for today's point, we're going to use these words, more, fewer, and less, okay, to talk about something that has increased or something that has decreased. Okay? So using more, fewer, and less. Okay? Our first four patterns, we're going to talk about this idea. Right? There are more something. There are fewer something. There is more something, there is less something. Now, before we begin, okay, English, one of the inconvenient points is we have countable and uncountable nouns, which means, of course, 数えられるもの、数えられないもの. And it's a little bit troublesome. Okay? It's not a major point. Okay? If you make a mistake, people will still understand. Okay? But for things that we count, okay, we'll use the idea there are more and there are fewer. And things that we cannot count, we would use there is more or there is less. Okay? Now I will give you some examples. Okay? And at the end of this Changes series, okay, you will have a chance to maybe use some of these. Okay? But here are some examples. Okay? For example, there are more. Okay? There are, let's see, there are more For example, there are more people in my hometown now. I mean, the population has become larger. Right? So there are more people. People, of course, we can count. Right? Or, how about fewer? Right? For example, there are fewer we can use the same idea. Right? And maybe there are fewer trees. Right? That people maybe cut down the trees to make land for farming or housing, and so there are fewer trees now. Right? Idea, things that we don't count. Maybe Maybe I talk about there is more crime recently. course, this is a negative thing, but crime, of course, Hanzai. Actually, we don't count the word crime, so there is more crime recently. Okay? Or something about less, for example, there is For example, there is less snow than in years past. Maybe the idea of the Earth is becoming warmer, global warming, but maybe there is less snow. Snow, of course, we do not count. So we're talking about things that there are more of, or fewer or less of. Now, another pattern you might want to try is instead of using there are and there is, you can change the subject. For example, the restaurant, or yourself, or for example, maybe my home. So, for example, maybe the restaurant has more For example, the restaurant has more menu choices than before. So the menu, there are more items on the menu. Or for example, maybe about yourself. Of course, being in a pandemic, for most people, I have fewer chances to travel. Maybe that's true for everyone. Or maybe not my home. Let's talk about my hometown. And this would be a positive change. Maybe my hometown has less. Oops. For example, my hometown has less pollution than it did 10 years ago. Now, do you know the word pollution? That's pollution, of course, when either the air or the water or the land is dirty. That's pollution. Onsen in Japanese. So, some of these, of course, are a positive change. Some of them are a negative change. And some of them, it's not positive or negative, it's just a change. So, there are more people in my hometown now. Well, that could be a positive thing. If there are too many people, that could be a negative thing. Fewer trees in my hometown, probably a little negative. More crime would be negative. Less snow, for many people that would be good. More menu choices would be positive. Fewer chances to travel, maybe negative. Hometown, less pollution, again, positive. So, we're using these words more, fewer, and less to talk about changes to your hometown, changes to the restaurant, changes to yourself. So, if you have a chance, please use some of these patterns. But that's all for today. See you next time.